All right, so peace. There was a story last week, a couple weeks ago, uh, revolving around Serena Williams and an allegedly quote unquote racist statement that was made about her child by a former tennis player named Nastase. That was once again, like I stated, allegedly racist. We're gonna watch how the liberal media covers this story.
Nastase was a star tennis player from Romania in the 1970s. What made him famous was his legendary temper and foul language and bad behavior in a sport known for its manners and propriety. Nastase was politically incorrect before politically incorrect was a thing. Nastase's back in the sports headlines this week. Several generations later, his big mouth is still fully dysfunctional, but it lacks whatever charm it may have once had. Nastase was quoted making a racially insensitive crack about the biracial baby which Serena Williams and her fiance are expecting.
There's no such thing as a biracial baby. All right? The word race means seed. The child is the quote unquote race of whatever the father is. All right? I might lose some people with that, but that's okay. Due to the fact that we're given corporate designations for race here in America, nobody really knows what their race is. So now people are reduced to categorizing themselves based on mathematical equations. I'm half black, I'm 1/4 this, I'm 1/3 that, and all this nonsense. Because nobody really knows what their race is, because nobody knows what their seed line is. All right, everybody's going by corporate titles that have been invented by the so-called Caucasian. All right, so to make a long story short, no, there's no such thing as a half black, half white baby.
Nastase compared the baby to chocolate milk. Politically incorrect, huh? Brash.
Why is that politically incorrect? Why is that? I don't understand. Why is that racist? Right? Why is what he's saying even relevant? Why should his statements about her child be relevant to her? If she truly is a strong-minded person, like she claims to be, she should have ignored it, right? He or she, whatever the hell. Look, I don't give a damn. That is not a female, all right? And y'all might get mad at that. It is what it is. Serena Williams, like, come on, man. Like Austin Powers said, she's a man, baby.
Brash as ever, isn't he? He's just saying what other people are thinking, right? No, no, and hell no. Serena, the greatest female tennis player ever, responded at length with a statement. She doesn't need anyone to fight her battles for her, I know. That said, please allow me. Nastase should have left Serena alone, not because she's the greatest of all time or world famous, or because hundreds of millions of people respect and admire her. Nastase should have kept his mouth shut because Serena Williams and her fiance are human beings, period.
That's debatable, all right? That is debatable. According to your own scientists, the only true human being is the so-called black man and black woman. That's according to your scientists. You should look that up. All right, you guys are mutated forms of the so-called Neanderthal mixed with human being DNA. All right, that's according to your scientists. All right, so she decided to have a baby with a child with a so-called Neanderthal mutant, according to the Caucasian's scientists. Okay, so people could come on and say I made a racist statement. Look, I don't give a damn. That's what their scientists say. That the only 100% human is the so-called black man and black woman. That's what they say. All right?
People deserve decency and empathy and respect. We don't otherize.
People deserve decency and empathy and respect based on their conduct. All right? Based on their conduct. Has Serena Williams been a so-called black male athlete that had went out there and got a Caucasian female pregnant and they were the recipients of so-called racial rhetoric? I wonder what the perception would be. We know that Serena Williams is viewed as being the mother goddess of tennis. All right? We know that of sports, pardon me. She's the mother goddess of the sports world. So everybody's supposed to bow down to her or him or whatever the hell that is. Right? The androgynous deity.
Eyes one another based on nature's distribution of DNA, and we sure as hell don't objectify or categorize or slur each other's children.
What do you mean you don't objectify or slur each other's children? That happens all the time. Your hero, Hillary Clinton, Didn't she say that that black boys are super predators? She said that. That sounds like a far worse quote unquote slur than anything that Nastase said. All right?
A lot of people get a lot of mileage out of being politically incorrect. They credit themselves for being brave and strong, for saying what they really think. And that's fine if we're talking about some unpopular policy position or wearing, a brown belt with black shoes or something like that. But when it comes...
I don't think that you're qualified to tell people when they have the right to speak their mind. But it is indicative of the so-called Caucasian liberal to tell people what's best for them.
Comes to the treatment of our fellow human beings, tennis stars or otherwise, there's no political correctness. There's just right and wrong. And until Nastase has an adult understanding of the world, he should shut up. Serena, the rest of us have your back.
Speak for yourself. I don't have that person's back. That's the same person, Serena Williams, who came out and said that in order for when a black female gets to be at a certain level or certain status, that she has to either be with a white male or with a lesbian. Those are her words. Allegedly, she didn't make them. She didn't make those statements. Allegedly. I believe that she did. Right? All of her actions have shown that she and her sister adhere to those statements. Both of them are married to Caucasian males. People will come back and say, well, wasn't she with Common and Drake and all this nonsense? You guys believe that those Hollywood relationships, all right? They get together and they say, look, I need some attention. I need some camera time. Come over. We'll meet at the restaurant. We'll have the paparazzi take a picture of us. We'll cuddle when we see the cameras. All right? Y'all believe that nonsense, man. Serena Williams, all of a sudden, she supposedly was with this dude, Drake, allegedly. Then they, quote unquote, break up. And then a month later, she's marrying that big Eddie Munster looking white boy that she's with, allegedly. Come on, man. Knock it off. But anyway. Now, this show also covered the Serena Williams issue. This is Jalen and Jacoby. They're also going to cover the Nastase, Serena Williams non-story. It just goes to show you how sensitive a lot of these... Now, for those who don't know, David Jacoby, this gentleman right here, he's with a so-called black female. So, everybody's real sensitive when it comes to these type of issues, depending on their situation. Max Kellerman, he's the liberal Caucasian Jew. You have David Jacoby, he's the beta male with the so-called black female. And then you have Jalen Rose. He has to play a role because he's on a liberal network.
There's so much love in our hearts, and we try to keep it positive, but sometimes there's things that come across the sports news world where we just can't keep it positive. And this was the celebration of Serena Williams' pregnancy. She's #1 in the world, and she's pregnant. She won the Australian Open when she was pregnant. There's so much positivity surrounding Serena Williams right now.
All that was a non-story. Who gives a shit? All right.
It just makes me happy. And then there is the comments of Nastase.
Yeah, I want to give him the gas face. He's the Romanian FedEx Cup champion. Okay? Had a terrific career. I think he's in his 70s at this point. And for those that don't know, Serena's in a mixed relationship.
No, there's no such thing as a mixed relationship. She's in a mixed up relationship. All right? Most likely an arranged relationship. Right, because that's how they get down in the entertainment industry. All right. But that's neither here nor there.
And so in our climate, there will be people that still look at that and interpret a certain way.
And now Jalen also is going to be a little sensitive to it because he, by his own definition, is in a quote unquote mixed relationship with Molly Karam from First Take, who is a so-called Armenian.
And I was really offended by his comments. Here's what he had to say. Let's see what color it has. Babies aren't its.
Yes, they are. Babies actually are its. It's common to call a baby an it, especially if you don't know the gender.
Its are things. That's really offensive. It's really rude. It's flagrant. It's disrespectful. And it's foul.
No, you're just super sensitive right now.
And you know what he did to apologize? He doubled down. It made it worse. He said, I'm not racist. If I would have said ugly black baby, that would be racist.
To dig the
I agree. If he said that, that would have been racist, but I still wouldn't have gave a shit. Who cares? Y'all live so much through what these Caucasians say, man. Get over it.
I think the whole deeper double down apology is the worst apology.
How about beautiful black baby?
Oh, would that make you feel better? Would that help your self-esteem if the Caucasian man said that's a beautiful black baby? Why would he want to say that for? Why would he need to say that? And why would you need him to say that? I have to doubt your self-confidence. I have to doubt your self-image, Jalen Rose.
You ever thought about that?
Or just don't be racist in the first place.
How about just allowing others to do them while you do you?
And
He did do him. Y'all got mad.
we will continue to do us. That's all the time we have.
All right, now we're going to find out how Skip and Shannon covered the story. Let's see what happens here.
Next up, last week Serena Williams announced she is 20 weeks pregnant on...
She could just be pushing out her stomach. Like, she's not somebody who has a flat stomach anyway. You know, oh, boy, this stuff is something else.
And on Friday, tennis legend Nastase had a controversial response...
Look at this shit. These two freaks, they on the beach with trench coats on. A lot of you black men are so-called black men are so funny to me. With this Serena Williams stuff, y'all infatuation with Serena Williams. I'm sorry, I don't give a damn what nobody say. That's a dude, all right? Allegedly. Y'all can get mad as you want about that. That is a dude, all right? Allegedly. And, you know, the white boy can have her.
Response to the news of Serena's pregnancy with her fiance, who is white. Nastase said, let's see what color it has, chocolate with milk. Serena responded on Instagram, it disappoints me to know we live in a society where people like Jalen and Nastase can make such racist comments towards myself and an unborn child.
Why did he make why is that a racist statement? I mean, aren't so-called black people the color of chocolate? Who gives a damn? That's a righteous color. That's the color that somebody's supposed to be.
Child and sexist comments against my peers. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This world has come so far, but yet we have further to go.
Yes, that's the normal so-called liberal black female meanderings, right? Remember, they're so-called pro-black. I touched on this in the Chris Rock video, you know, where he was talking about Planet of the Apes. The so-called black female, the liberal black female. Let me specify. You know, they're racialists, they're globalists, and they're feminist. All right? Which means that nothing that they have to say can be trusted because there's no real consistency in their statements. All right? They really just live to be validated by the Caucasian man. That's what they live for. All right? That's all they live for. And for you people who say, oh, well, you know, wasn't Serena Williams dating Common and Drake? Look, them dudes are homosexuals, all right? No disrespect. The other dude, Jackie Long, he's also a so-called homosexual. Those guys were bearding for her, right? Supposedly she was in some torrid relationship with Drake. All of a sudden, they quote unquote break up, and 2 months later, she pop up with this white boy, and they get married. And y'all believe all this nonsense that you see on television.
Where to go? Shannon, what's your reaction?
Disappointed.
Oh boy. Here go the Baptist preacher again. Shannon Luther King Jr.
But I'm not surprised. I know who Nastase is because I followed tennis for a very long time. He's a very good player, and if you don't follow tennis, you don't realize just how good of a player he was. He won slams. He's in the Tennis Hall of Fame. He was the #1 ranked player in the world for a very long time.
Not for a very long time, but for a while.
But he was like in 70, Skip,
72.
at the point, he was the only guy at that time in 73 when he won the French, he was the only guy to not drop a set. So it speaks about, he's in the Tennis Hall of Fame. Let's put it like that.
Yep.
That means he's very good.
Yep.
But he's always has and always will be known as a loudmouth. You know, Skip?
Yeah, so are you.
It just goes to show you, black men and women, be it athletes, be it entertainers, they have to deal with things their white counterparts never have to deal with. And why am I not surprised?
because she has to deal with this in America. Because if you have to deal with this in your own home, what do you think it's like when you go outside of it?
Anybody dealing in a so-called interracial relationship has to deal with more issues. All right? If she was having a child with a so-called black man, I doubt if he would have made any statement at all. All right? That's part of it when she decides that she wants to. But you know what? Shannon's sensitive to this because he's also in a so-called interracial relationship. So all these announcers, they're all aggy right now because, you know, they see the issues that she's going through reflected on them.
Skip, if I can't find peace in my home, and I'm just hypothetically speaking, let's just say for the sake of argument, my own home in the literal sense. If I can't get peace there, do I expect to get peace outside of it?
If you can't find peace in your literal home, then you know what? You move out and you get another home. All right? Like I said before, the analogy I made before, so-called liberal blacks, you know, they like that chick who's living with a rich guy. All right? She's a pretty woman, but they always arguing. She claims that he doesn't treat her right, but she don't want to leave. She doesn't want to leave because she's scared she's not going to be able to find the same living conditions somewhere else. All right? All this complaining and nonsense about these little silly statements because he said that the child's going to look like chocolate milk. Who gives a shit?
If I can't get the respect that I deserve here in America.
Well, in order for our people to get respect, we have to come back into our culture. All right? Can't get respect when you don't have a culture.
Do I expect to get it abroad? Skip, we should be committed. Skip, think about this.
Think about this.
We're talking about Serena Williams. And if you gave me 10 minutes, I don't really need that length of time, Skip, but I can make a case she's the greatest athlete to ever live. Male or female.
You could.
Black or white.
You mean male and female?
White.
Yep.
Because you look at the longevity. She won her first slam at age 17 in 1999, the U.S. Open. She just won this year in 2017, the Australian Open. So there's 18 years of dominance.
Let me say this. Like I said before, I'm a believer that she's a so-called tranny. It is what it is. Certain people not going to like it. I understand that already. There's an issue going on with some recently converted transsexual wrestler, I believe in Texas, one of those down south states, who's winning all of her wrestling tournaments. Let me tell you something. If they ever find out that Serena Williams was born a male, all hell gonna break loose. All right? But I don't believe that they ever will because I believe that she's part of a program. You know, same like Tiger Woods, MK Ultra program to promote so-called blacks in sports that have not been notably associated with blacks, so-called blacks. So I don't believe that they're gonna let it come out. But if that ever came out that she was born a male, oh man.
She's a 23-time slam winner.
Yep.
We should be applauding her. But what we're...
Oh, please. Nobody gets more applause than Serena Williams. Nobody. Particularly from the liberal media. Now, people might say, well, what about how she's treated overseas? What about how she's treated in some of these arenas? I mean, come on.
What we're having to do is address a comments by a loudmouth that has racial undertones. This is something her and her sister had to deal with since they burst onto the scene. Because there was not a reporter, he was an analyst that was just let go on another network because he referred to Venus as a gorilla. Now, if you remember, Skip, Serena and Venus had...
Now that announcer, I saw that. The announcer said that Venus Williams charged the net like a gorilla. I believe that was a Freudian slip. He tried to switch it up by saying he was talking about guerrilla tactics as in the military. But no, he meant it as an actual gorilla. But he meant it in the context of she charged the net like a gorilla. Now, was it Freudian in that she's dark and big and, you know, maybe that came out, but I don't believe that he had necessarily had racial intent when he said that. But he tried to switch it and say that it was talking about gorilla, Guerrilla, as opposed to the animal gorilla. And that's where he got disingenuous because he clearly meant the animal. But he was done after he said that shit. But I mean, in regards to what they might face on the tours, and I guarantee you, they're not facing any more affliction than any other so-called black athlete faces, whether it be a LeBron James, in baseball, the Adam Jones story. That's just par for the course. You're looking for love from these people because you need them to validate you. All right? Just get the money and keep it moving. To hell with them.
Had boycotted Indian Wells for a long period of time because one year I think Venus pulled out and everybody started booing and started calling him and referring him as names, which is very, very unfortunate. And this is what they've had to deal with this entire time they've been playing. Skip, I don't know how many people know this, but you know that Hawkeye technology that they freeze frame it and they'll see if the ball is in and out? They put that in because of Serena. The judges, the umpires were being so unfair, calling her balls out when they were in.
Hey, that could have a double meaning, Shannon. Be careful. She might have a couple balls that might come out.
Calling her opponent's balls in when they were out. They say this is so ridiculous. We can't do this in today's time. Think about that, Skip. They're blatantly cheating in a competition when it's so obvious.
Shannon, you gotta warn me before you yell like that, man. Man, it sound like he got Tourette syndrome. Think about that, Skip.
And this is what she has to deal with. Here's a time in her life. This is probably the proudest moment. Yes, she's proud of what she accomplished. But I think for a woman being able to have a child and to bring a life into the world with someone you love and want to share that with. So this what she should be proud and happy, and we should be commending her. But she has to address this.
You know, the black man is the only one, the so-called black man on television especially, they're the only ones that are always trying to commend so-called black females for being taken by other men. On television anyway. I'm not going to speak for the so-called for the brothers that's in the real world. But on television, they're always trying to commend the other races of men for taking black females. All right. Now imagine if this was Maria Sharapova and she had a so-called black boyfriend. You think that Caucasian men would be on TV saying, man, we should be commending her for having a baby with Malik Jenkins. All right.
Now when Kim Clijsters had her baby, nobody said a word.
Was Kim Clijsters' baby daddy a black man, Shannon?
Oh, George, she came back, had a baby, and nobody said, well, everybody commended her. Even Nastase didn't make any comments. See, he said, well, you have your humor, we have ours. But he called the lady that understood what he was saying in Romanian, he called her stupid for printing it. Asked, why would you print that? Well, if you did nothing wrong, why do you care what's being printed? You see where they go with this, Skip? This is what I say all the time. And people are like, oh, this is right. We've had to deal with things that our counterparts don't have to deal with. It is so unfair.
Oh, Shannon's going into the moan and groan phase again. He's going into the whining phase again. The please love me master phase again. You see his face turns like a puppy dog. Yeah, we've gone through a lot of things that are unfair, bro, but that happens when you're living in somebody else's house. Right? When our people are ready to have their own house, they'll no longer be forced to be subjected to marginalization. If you're 35 years old and you're still living at home with your mom, you can't get mad when your mom tells you, take your ass to the store and buy some orange juice. Yeah, she's going to talk to you like a child because you still are one.
But you know what? I don't think Serena's surprised at all. I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed that you would think. But it just goes to show you. I don't care how high you ascend.
Here you go with that theatrical shit again. I don't care how high you stand. Sound like Ray Lewis.
I don't care what you accomplish. I don't care how much money you make. That's how some see you. That's how some will always see you.
So your point is what, Shannon? What's your point, bro? Should we put a hit out on Illy Nastase?
So if you ever think for 1 second that you're not, they'll offer a reminder for you to let you know that you are.
Who's they? Is they including your woman? The white woman that you boning? Is she included in they, brother?
Here's my problem with this whole topic. I have less than zero respect for Illy Nastase, and I have known of him for a long time because I wrote about him back in my younger days.
You see how Skip began it? He said, I have less than zero respect for Illy Nastase. In other words, he's saying, I don't give a shit about what he said. See, that's how somebody with a ruling class mentality thinks. I don't give two shits about what you said.
Even when I was at the LA Times, I covered some tennis, covered the US Open, and he has turned into a sad old joke of a has-been tennis star and playboy who continues to make outrageous statements just to attract more attention to himself because he has no other reason for being, as far as his celebrity goes, except to make audacious, outrageous statements. And I, for one, am sorry we're giving him this time on this show. But I do appreciate one fact here, that Serena, I'm sure, felt like she cannot miss the opportunity to stand up and defend herself and her race.
No, the reason why she made that statement towards him is because he represents an authority figure to her. He's somebody who's important. If a so-called black man had made a statement about her being in an interracial relationship, she would have ignored it because she views the black man as being beneath her, the so-called black man. All right? She responded to the statement by the so-called white man because she views him as an authority figure and she wants his approval. That's the only reason why she responded. All right? If a so-called black man had said, look, I don't like that she's in an interracial relationship, the baby's going to look beige, she would have ignored it. All right? I guarantee you that.
And that's why I appreciate everything you just said, because you can't let the opportunity pass, even though this opportunity is so far beneath her dignity that it's a joke, because he didn't deserve us even talking about him today.
Exactly. You see how somebody with a ruling class mentality thinks? You know, when you're a lion, you don't worry about what the ants are doing beneath you. Serena responded because she views him not only as an equal, but as a superior. You have to understand the mindset of the liberal black woman, man. A lot of you brothers, man, y'all have to understand the mindset of the liberal black woman, even though they talk all that shit about racism. What did she do? She ran out there and got her a liberal black, a so-called white man, a liberal so-called white man. Why? Because to her, that is Shangri-La. She reached the mountaintop. All right? And a lot of so-called black women will say, oh, well, black men didn't want her. Get the hell out of here. 90% of these silly ass niggas, all they talk about is how big her ass is and how much they want Serena Williams. Let's knock it off. This broad running around looking like the damn Lion King with that fake ass weave in her goddamn hair.
Today, but we're going to, because you just did. So now I got to try to put Nastase in some kind of perspective, because he was a very good player for a while. He was extremely talented, but he squandered his ability because of his lifestyle. And he was nicknamed Nasty right away off Nastase, obviously. And he quickly became a caricature of himself because he tried to live up to his nickname by disrupting matches with his profanity and his trash talk and his actions. Just disrupted every match and turned every match into a sideshow that became, in the end, unwatchable. That one in '79 against John McEnroe. You know,
He was kind of McEnroe before McEnroe.
He was, but he was times 10 McEnroe. He made John McEnroe, to me, look like a choir boy. That's how bad he was, because it was completely out of bounds. When they finally met in a U.S. Open match, '79, it got so bad that they tried to call the match off because he just wouldn't even play it. He just went and sat over in a chair, one of the lines people's chair, and just sat there and said, I don't want to play anymore, because he was getting his butt beaten because he was a washed up has-been at that point. And all he'd want to do is tell the reporters about how many thousands of women he'd slept with. Okay. So.
Okay, that's his business. If he getting draws like that, good for him.
So we're impressed. And the only reason he's been allowed to get away with what he gets away with is because he lives in Romania, where he's right there.
Revered.
But they're two big stars in Romania sports, Nadia Comaneci and Ilie Nastase. And I remind you, his mentor, a player before him.
And I think I mentioned this already. The original Romanians, Romania was originally presided over by the so-called black people. Right? In the ancient world, they were known as Dacians, if I remember correctly, Dacians. All right. And I believe they were conquered by Trajan, if I remember correctly. But in the Middle Ages, they were ruled over by the Angevin Empire, culminating with Vlad the Impaler, right? Or as they call him in modern day times, Count Dracula. He was a so-called black man, believe it or not. All right.
Him a generation before him, Jan Tiriac. Do you remember Jan?
And tennis was invented by so-called blacks too, by the way. All right. King Henry VIII, who was a so-called black man, used to play tennis before he got fat.
Was kind of his, he's about 5 years his senior. He once said of Nastase, he doesn't have a brain in his head. He has a bird flying around in his head instead of a brain.
Right.
And that's about what he is.
Yes.
He's imbecilic to me. He accused Serena fairly recently of PED use.
Right.
Which I wouldn't be surprised at. I wouldn't be shocked at. The broad got shoulders like Lawrence Taylor.
He's just throwing stuff against the wall, hoping somebody say, yeah.
And I know some people gonna get mad. You're gonna have some simps get mad and some so-called black women in the comments. You hating on Serena. All right? Nobody's hating on Serena. Like, come on, man. Let me look at her.
He obviously has no proof of that.
Right.
And then he made a complete buffoonish fool of himself during this Fed Cup period here because, first of all, he went to the press conference. He shows up just because he's a legend in Romania.
Correct.
And he turned to the Fed Cup players, the male players, and tried to make this, quote, cute little joke about Serena.
Yeah.
And one of the reporters overheard the joke, which
Correct.
you referred to,
Yes.
and went ahead and printed it. And then he's like, why did you print that? And by the way, why is that racist? Well, he's
It's not racist. It's just lame. It's just lame. But once again, so-called blacks, they're so justified. Many of us, let me correct that. So-called liberal blacks, they feel so validated by being accepted by Caucasians that when they're not, it hurts them. Once again, that's why she responded. She would not have responded if a so-called black man had said that. Believe me. She can give a damn about what a so-called black man thinks. Right? But because it was an elder Caucasian man, she felt the need to respond.
he's thick-headed and foolish. He has no idea. He's completely out of touch. He's 70 years old now.
Right.
And then he goes to, well, first of all, at the press conference, when the women came in, he starts hitting on one of the Great Britain players, asking for a room number and completely humiliating her and everybody else at the media
And they
section.
kicked him out.
Hey, he trying to get, he trying to see he trying to show how he swing his racket. It's a big deal.
Kicked him out.
Yeah, and they kicked him out, and then he goes to the match and gets completely thrown out again for yelling F-bombs at the chair umpire.
Yeah.
Well, this is...
Look at Serena Williams in the background. You mean to tell me that you really can't see why some people think that that's a transsexual?
This is pathetic. This man, he's completely out of control. But in Romania, where he's still treated as a legend, he gets away with whatever he wants to get
And
away
the
with.
problem that I have, a lot of this, Skip, is that Serena's dominance is PEDs. Nobody's ever questioned Michael Phelps' PEDs. He's been dominant. No,
I would. I'll question his ass. Michael Phelps, it wouldn't shock me at all. Most of them swimmers are on PEDs. All right?
nobody questions
Allegedly.
Roger Federer. Nobody's questioning Katie Ledecky. But this is what they use.
Katie Ledecky definitely look like she on something. That chick is like 19 years old and got a comb over, 6'1", and her shoulders is bigger than Michael Phelps.
You remember there was a Russian tennis guy says maybe they should check the gender of Venus and Serena.
Agreed.
This is what she has to go to. But guess what? When have you ever...
They did question Mark McGuire, though, I can tell you that.
But here's the thing, though, Skip. When have you heard anybody question anything Maria Sharapova did? Even after she told him she was taking meldonium. Even after she told him she only take it when she exercised hard and she played matches.
Well, they're not going to do that, number one, Shannon, because she represents the Caucasian ideal, blonde hair, blue eye. But number two, nobody should be surprised that she was on something for the simple fact that she's from Russia, the Eastern Bloc. They're renowned for being on performance-enhancing drugs.
And even though they said this is what it does for you, she told them what she did. And still, they praise her.
Well, I mean, she got suspended.
But Skip, think about it, though. Here's the thing. What if Maria Sharapova had half the talent as Serena?
Okay.
Serena is not a bigger endorser off the court. Now, we know why. We used to think that it had something to do with being able to play athletes. If you play, the better you play, the more you endorse. Because Steph Curry didn't get the endorsements he got until he started winning MVPs and winning titles. So we understand his ascension. When the last time Maria Sharapova did something? When was the last time she beat her?
Well, tennis is a global sport. It's mostly played in Caucasian countries, Shannon. It is what it is. And Serena Williams does not have conventional standards of beauty. People going to get mad at that. It's okay. If Halle Berry was the best tennis player in the world, I guarantee you she would be a much bigger force on the international advertising market than Serena Williams. Serena Williams just doesn't have classical, quote unquote, classical global beauty. All right?
Yeah, but she became.
And people gonna get mad at that. That's okay. It is what it is. Ain't nobody looking at Serena Williams' face saying, "Oh, goddamn, that she's drop dead gorgeous." Right? And that shouldn't be a prerequisite. She's a world-class athlete.
Became an endorser of her celebrity. She became an
Off of her looks.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Off of her looks.
Yeah.
And they don't make any jokes about Maria Sharapova. They
About
don't.
PEDs.
No. Well, they do not because they have the test. They have the failed drug test. But how many sponsors? They postponed it. They postponed her sponsorship. But guess what? When she comes back, because she's been away for 50, she's trying to get wild card to play again. And a lot of tennis players are like, hold on, no. You shouldn't get no wild card. You should have to earn your way back.
Yep.
But guess what? When she comes back, guess what else will come back? Those sponsors that abandoned her with 15 months. Let that happen to Serena.
Well,
They want that to happen
overall,
to
it's
Serena.
just more important that she's having to address someone whose behavior is so outlandish to me.
She doesn't have to address him. She did it because she worships him. All right? And so do you. Every time I watch this show, you siding with Skip against Shannon. All right? That's subconscious. The women of color, they subconsciously look at the so-called Caucasian man as an authority figure. Right? Not every woman of color, obviously, but a lot of them do. It is what it is. Right? The best thing that she could have done is if they asked her about it, was said, who gives a shit? He's nobody. Story would have been done. Over. She sent out that long-winded, liberal black female message. Why? Because she wants Ili Nastase to love her so bad. If he had hit on her, I guarantee you she would have gave up whatever it is between her legs. She would have gave that up to him. Because she done slept with half her tennis coaches. Right? Or they've slept with her, or she slept with them, whatever goes on between them.
To begin with. Coming up, how high?
But anyway, yeah, that's the issue with the Serena Williams, Ili Nastase, quote unquote, racist comments against her child issue. Peace. I want to include this conversation in the Serena Williams racist baby comment, allegedly racist baby comment video, because I thought that this conversation was the most well-rounded, which is normally what happens on the Fox Sports 1 broadcast. So let's see how they handle the situation.
All right, welcome back. Speak for yourself. Joining Cowherd and I are Chris Carter and Jim Jackson. Let's get to a major controversy involving Serena Williams, who responded to what she calls, quote, a racist comment from 70-year-old tennis Hall of Famer Ili Nastase.
Yeah, she responded to him because she probably wants to sleep with him. She slept with most of her tennis coaches. Allegedly.
At a press conference on Friday, Nastase was overheard discussing Serena's unborn baby, saying, quote, let's see what color it has, chocolate with milk, question mark.
I mean, look, I don't see what the big deal is about that. If you're really that self-confident, why you worry about what some 70-year-old white man's saying about your child? Like, come on. But like I said before, I already know why she sent it. That's a rhetorical question I just asked. I already know why she's so worried about what he said. Because she has the so-called white man on a pedestal as high as the damn Empire State Building. Believe me.
Serena's fiance is white, and Serena responded saying, it disappoints me to know we live in a society where people like Ili Nastase can make such racist comments towards myself and unborn child and sexist comments against my peers. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This world has come so far, but yet we have further to go. Colin, what is your reaction to Serena calling these comments racist?
Well, she can call him what she wants. I grew up watching Ili Nastase, and he was at times vulgar and vile. He spit on umpires. He was rude to players and fans. McEnroe could be temperamental, but had a funny and charming side, and in his own weird way was kind of likable during his outbursts. Ili Nastase was completely unlikable. He was inappropriate. He once called a German player Hitler. This is who he is. This is who he's always been. He is a remarkably gifted player who has little empathy for other people. And this is just what I remember as a kid watching him play. I used to watch a lot of tennis. My mom was from England, so Wimbledon was big in our house. Little BBC, little Wimbledon. And there was a bunch of personalities. Borg was fun, the Swedish likable guy, Connors, McEnroe. Ili Nastase was a different level of difficult, and nobody liked him. And so when he said this, I thought, some things don't change.
So basically, his take is similar to Skip Bayless. Why take him seriously? He's a clown, right? That's his take. That's how these Caucasian men thinks. I don't take people seriously who are not worth being taken seriously. But the black liberal takes what the white man thinks seriously because they love the white man. They want his acceptance and his validation so badly.
Listen, I grew up in Indianapolis. My favorite place on
the black liberal does. Let me specify. The black liberal, they want the so-called white man's acceptance and love.
On the planet was my father's 2 bars. One was Jimmy's J Bar J. The other was the Masterpiece Lounge. Grew up in the hood. Grew up on a bar stool. Ely Nastase would have fit in. Now, he wouldn't have been welcome because mostly it was a black bar. But old people say dumb stuff all the time.
Right, they do.
What he said was not remotely racist. It was not remotely something I'm not capable of saying. My dad, everybody I know, white people I know, black people I know, anybody could have said these comments. Serena Williams and black people are not so fragile that any word that isn't hit us like a feather needs to have some public statement and some public apology.
Agreed.
Look, I like what Serena Williams has accomplished, but she lives in La La Land.
Agreed. With an exclamation point, agreed. She's another so-called social media revolutionary. Another chick that jumps on the internet to talk about police profiling only because it's what's trending in the white man's mainstream news, right? Like a lot of so-called liberal black women, they jumped on the racial bandwagon last year when all of the killings of black men went public. But like I said, when Barack Obama was selected back in 2008, the main demographic that was saying that it was time for the black man to stop making excuses about racism, it was the so-called black woman. All right? A lot of them jumped on the internet last year, and all of a sudden they were racial warriors because the liberal whites said, wow, there's a lot of racism. So then that gave the liberal black woman the cue to co-sign it and jump on board and say, yeah, there is a lot of racism towards black men. Give me a break.
And a lot of times. This comment is another one of those deals. She lives in some fantasy world where no one says anything appropriate, especially about Serena Williams, who's been gifted to us as a gift from God. Get out of here with that BS.
This brother's on point sometimes, man. This take that he had was absolutely 110% on point. He even alluded to what I stated about her being a goddess in the sports world. Nobody could say anything about this broad because she's the mother Isis incarnated. Get the hell out of here.
Well, I disagree with you guys, and the reason why is
because you was formerly on crack. That's why.
Because she's grown up hearing a lot of different things. We all grew up in a certain era or in a certain place where our development was formed. Now, based on her father and what he taught those kids when they started playing tennis from Compton.
That's the person that never gets mentioned. You never hear her father get mentioned, right? When all these so-called pro-black black women jump on the internet or get out in public and they talk about how much they love Serena Williams, and they never mention how she's with a Caucasian man, all right? They don't say, wow, you must hate your father. Or wow, that you must hate yourself because your father's black, right? Isn't that the reasoning that they use to condemn famous black men, so-called black men in interracial relationships? Oh, you're full of self-hate. You're taking money out of the black community. You must hate your mother, right? All of this low-level psychiatric psychobabble that the so-called liberal black female tries to use on famous or affluent so-called black males in interracial relationships. You don't see any of those standards applied to Serena Williams.
And the amount of racism that they have faced through their childhood and also on tour.
Let me tell you something. The amount of quote-unquote racism that Serena Williams has faced pales in comparison to the amount of racism faced by the average so-called black man every day. All right? Big deal if she gets booed every once in a while. She's bringing in $30 million a year. Get over it.
She thinks that it's racist because he's one of the greats of the game. He's referring to her baby because she's having a baby with a white man as a black baby. Now, people don't refer to other biracial couples as whatever the dominant speech, whatever culture is more dominant. Like, why did he even have to say that?
Because he felt like saying something. He was speaking to his other group of low-level thinking, probably racist fellow Caucasian men, and he got caught on audio. It is what it is. That's his business. The real issue is, why do you care so much?
Like, they're just having a baby. What difference does it make if it's white or black?
Comment overheard by somebody in private, and just the people that I know say slightly inappropriate things in private conversations.
Well,
and when people look, I've just been around long enough to know that it's not the first time I heard somebody, black or white, say, "Oh, is the baby gonna be chocolate or milk?" or make some kind of comment.
But it's still
Agreed. As soon as you have a so-called interracial child, people make those little silly comments, right? When you decide to engage in an interracial relationship and have a child with that person, you should be prepared for that. All right? If you're gonna be thin-skinned, then you should not embark on those type of relationships.
It's still a racist comment.
It's not racist. There was no ill intent.
No, he's just not aware.
There's no ill intent behind it.
How do we know his intent? Like, we can't judge his intent.
Right, well, exactly. The same way, for you to say that you can't judge his intent, that means that you can't say that it's racist. All right? There's far worse things that the man could have said, and either way, why does she care? Why do you care? Other than the fact that you want the white man to love you so damn bad because you have low self-esteem. All right? That's why you were hooked on drugs and alcohol, because you had low self-esteem. Trying to talk about you have a genetic predisposition. Get the hell out of here with that bullshit. Like somebody getting locked up in jail. Well, I had a genetic predisposition to rape, rob, and steal. They say, okay, nigga, no problem. You know what? Hopefully it'll wear off while you're doing life behind bars.
That's why I can't call it racist.
Why couldn't he just say, I'm happy for her having a child?
Because he ain't feel like saying it. You see, he's saying the same silly shit that Jalen Rose said. You know why? Because these guys, they need the so-called white man's validation so bad. It only shows you how weak the so-called black man thinks that these type of so-called black men, not every brother, but these type of dudes, these TV dudes, they need the so-called white man and woman to tell them how beautiful their baby is, because if not, they don't feel beautiful on their own. All right?
Because he was in a
because she's having a child with a white man. You think that got something to do with it? If her and Jimmy Jackson was having a child, he'd be saying, that's a hell of an athlete. He wouldn't be talking about is a child white.
If Nastase was the guy that he claimed to be in the bedroom, I would imagine he's had some chocolate.
I agree. I'm sure that Nastase has laid down with a lot of so-called black women, but that doesn't mean that he's not so-called racist. People try to use that justification all the time. At the end of the day, vagina is vagina. That doesn't establish your racial outlook. All right? But I believe that there is something to that, the sexual element, because I believe that he could knock down Serena Williams even today if he wanted to. A lot of these low self-esteem having liberal black females, they'll spread their legs and their mouth for a Caucasian man in a hot minute.
I'm just not going to be confident. He's probably had some different, but again, it kind of goes back to this. He is who he is. At 70 years old, he grew up in a different era. Myself, growing up, being bused to a predominantly all-white school, you get accustomed to hearing the whispers of racism. So yeah, we're a little bit more sensitive to the fact when we hear things like this because we've been down that road so many times. Take it even a step further. When you're a professional athlete, they're going to put you in a box as far as, one, probably not educated. Two, you come from the central city. Three, you're black. So you have all these check marks against you. So when you hear things in the boardroom or in conference rooms or different coaches and people talking about color, we are more sensitive.
No, the reason why you're more sensitive, and the brother makes a series of semi-valid points, the reason why people who are subjected to those environments are more sensitive, that's more of a reflection of a lack of instruction in the home. Your parents didn't teach you where you came from. They never taught you any history. All they taught you was you're going to a good white school. So you expect positive energy and you receive negative because your parents gave you a false sense of security and a false sense of enlightenment to make you think that because you're going to be around Caucasians that everything's going to be good. And it end up being the opposite. It affects your self-image and it affects your self-esteem. All right? That's your parents' fault as much as it is those Caucasians that might have said racist things to you. All right? A lot of our people don't know where they come from, so they need the Caucasian man and woman's acceptance.
Now, I'm agree with you on this one.
Yeah, in the bars, we say some stuff too.
Locker room.
In the locker room. But here's
I grew up in a
here's
football
my
locker room.
thing. When it comes out like this, do I think it was racist? Yes, because based on his history as a person and what he's done and how volatile he is, to me, yes, it was. And I understand why she came back and made the statement she did.
Yeah, because you're a liberal black and so is she. And y'all are desperate to always want to quote unquote clap back at these Caucasians instead of saying, I don't really give a shit. To hell with him. You know, it's not my job to worry about what he thinks about a so-called black baby. Deep down, he wishes that his skin color looked like Serena Williams. All right? That's why when the summertime comes, all they do is lay out on the beach all summer. Why is that? Because they want to have so-called brown skin. Right? What does the Caucasian man and woman say? They say, I look so pale. What does that mean? Right? What does that really mean? They want the golden brown skin of the so-called black man and black woman. Right? Why are you worried about people who have recessive traits, what they think about you? Right? What does a so-called white woman say? She wants a man tall, dark, and handsome. That's not talking about Brad Pitt.
We should remove the locker room comment based on the other excuses other people have made based on what they thought was locker room conversation.
No.
Exactly.
But first of all, we've all been in locker rooms.
There is no
and it's
doubt.
not remotely politically correct. Football.
And Chris Carter's referring to Richie Incognito, obviously. There's a bit of a gulf between Richie Incognito flagrantly using the so-called N-word towards other black players and towards the other offensive linemen that he was harassing, as compared to a 70-year-old semi-senile former tennis player saying that the baby's going to be chocolate. Yeah, the baby is actually going to be chocolate. Right? That's all she had to say. And you wish that you were chocolate.
Football and basketball, it's black dominated. I know what we say, and not everything that comes out of our mouth, joking and or serious, has been gifted from God. And so, again, I just holding other people to some standard we have no intention of living up to is a joke.
I agree. All right. So he's on fire on this one.
So, coming up,
I guess he had the last word on that. But yeah, you know, all that stuff is about, you see, a lot of these liberal blacks, they suffer from self-esteem issues, very, very low self-esteem. All right. They need to be justified by white people. They need to be validated by the so-called white man and woman. That's why, like I said before, all that frustration and marching, all that really amounts to is white man and white woman, please give me a hug, love me and kiss me and make me feel important. All right. So peace.